find out who's behind this, he's going to die. Hooah!
So a question I always had about Transformers Age of Extinction is if Optimus ever figured out that Harold Attinger was the mastermind behind the Autobots being hunted down. Now, for those of you who may not remember, Harold Attinger was the founder of Cemetery Wind, the CIA Black Ops unit created after the Battle of Chicago in order to hunt down and destroy every remaining Cybertronian on Earth. Now, in the film, Optimus vows to kill the human responsible for ordering the capture and destruction of both himself and the Autobots. And as we know, at the end of the film, while fighting Lockdown, Optimus was forced to briefly break away to save Cade Yeager's life by shooting Attinger. However, was this action simply a matter of protecting Cade in that moment, or was it also driven by Optimus realizing that Attinger was the true mastermind behind the Autobots being hunted down? Well, here's my take. Right before Optimus makes his vow, he tells the Autobots that they need to know why Lockdown is hunting them and why the humans are helping. This is when Cade reveals to them the drone he stole after Optimus saved his life. In this scene, he explains that after Ratchet and Leadfoot were gunned down, a truck came to haul their bodies away, marked with the logo of Kinetic Solutions Incorporated. Cade points out that KSI is a government contractor for the US Department of Defense, and were responsible for designing the drone. After hearing this, Shane Dyson pieces together what was really going on, realizing that the government is hunting down the Autobots and handing them over to KSI for experimentation. And of course, as we know after this, Optimus would make his vow to kill the one responsible. So based on this, we know that Optimus understands that KSI is not the force actively hunting the Autobots, but rather an opportunistic player in a much larger scheme. The true culprits are within the United States government. The only thing is, Optimus doesn't know who is pulling the strings. This uncertainty is part of the reason why he orders the Autobots to go to Chicago, so they can help Cade and Shane infiltrate KSI, in the hopes of uncovering who the mastermind is. And we know this is the case since Cade mentions this.
Chicago KSI headquarters is like a fortress. I'm gonna find a way into their top secret military wing. Find something to blackmail this company and the government.
Now, while Cade was snooping around, he witnessed KSI engineers melting down Ratchet's severed head, and he used the drone to transmit what he saw back to the Autobots. However, shortly after, he would be discovered and taken into custody by Harold Attinger, who began to question him on where Optimus Prime was at. And from here, the whole plot point of attempting to find out who was pulling the strings unfortunately ends, since the Autobots would launch their raid on KSI in retaliation for what they did to Ratchet. And when Optimus interrogates Joshua Joyce, he doesn't bring up anything about the government and instead focuses solely on the unethical experiments being conducted to his fallen comrades. This interrogation ends without any mention of the larger conspiracy, signaling that at this point Optimus is still unaware of who in the government orchestrated the manhunt. And from here, the film doesn't revisit Optimus trying to find out who ordered the attack, likely because the film has so many other plot points that demand focus. And the only reason I can think of as to why the filmmakers did not revisit this plot point was due to the fact that from the beginning of the film, the audience already knew that Attinger was the one pulling the strings, and so the Autobots finding out that information as well might have been viewed as redundant. So with that said, you could say that Optimus Prime never solved the mystery on who was pulling the strings, meaning that Optimus killing Attinger at the end of the film was simply a matter of saving Cade. However, I actually believe that Optimus did in fact solve the mystery before killing Attinger. And the reason why I believe this is the case is due to the scene where the Autobots are traveling to Hong Kong to prevent the detonation of the seed. In this scene, we see that Optimus and Cade are having a conversation. Now, the film never tells us how long they were talking for, since we only get this one short scene of Cade trying to reignite Optimus's faith in humanity. However, it would be highly unlikely that they did not reflect on their time at KSI. So based on this, I theorize that Cade told Optimus about him being interrogated by Attinger, describing to Prime what he looked like and how he learned that Attinger was the one who orchestrated the attacks against the Autobots and against his own family. However, you could make the argument that relying solely on a description of Attinger's appearance wouldn't be enough for Optimus to get his revenge. After all, there are many people who might resemble Attinger, and not to mention that when Cade met Attinger, he had glasses, and during the final battle, he did not. So going off appearance alone would force Optimus to make a judgment call if the person he saw was in fact Attinger. However, we actually do know for certain that Optimus knew that the man he saw was Attinger before shooting him, and the reason we know this is because Optimus was in earshot of Attinger's speech about how, in his view, protecting humanity required eliminating all Cybertronians, believing it was an us versus them with no room for exceptions. So while the film doesn't explicitly show Optimus discovering Attinger's role as the mastermind, there are enough context clues to suggest that he had figured it out during the final battle. Which is why I believe that when he shot Attinger, it wasn't just to save Cade's life. It was also the fulfillment of his earlier vow to bring justice to the one responsible for hunting down his Autobots.